Hi, I'm Jessica Bento, physical therapist. I will be bringing a 3-part series to PT on the Net on how to incorporate sandbag training into functional fitness programs. Sandbags have been around for many years, but they've never been a cornerstone in functional training programs due to all the misconceptions on how to properly implement them. One of the biggest misconceptions of sandbag training is that they're like a barbell, dumbbell, or even a kettlebell. But they're not. They have an instability component and a dimensional component. So I'm going to show you in this video the 4 main concepts of not sandbag training, but what we call dynamic variable resistance training. So why call it dynamic variable resistance training instead of just sandbag training? Sandbag training implies just the implement itself. Dynamic variable resistance training is the progressive training system for the implement, for the sandbag. The first concept I'm going to show you is holding position. Now, this isn't something that people typically program into their workouts. So first I'm going to show you how to establish the movement with a holding position and then challenge the movement with that holding position. So I'm going to bring in Josh to go over squatting patterns and how we manipulate holding position. So first I'm just going to have him do a bodyweight squat so we can kind of see where he's at baseline. Ideally, we want a little bit more vertical posture with that squat. So what I'm going to have him do is show us a bear hug squat. So what you're going to see with this bear hug squat, he's going to have a little bit more vertical torso. He's going to be grooving the pattern much better. And with that load, he's going to be building a more foundational strength. So you can see how much more upright he is than just his bodyweight squat. Now we're going to challenge the squatting pattern. We're going to go ahead and take this to a shoulder squat. So Josh is going to shoulder the bag up to one side and perform that squat again. This is going to give us a very strong asymmetrical loading pattern. So think of it as a standing dynamic plank almost. So as Josh performs the movement, we're going to see if he can connect those natural X patterns or cross patterning of the body. So what you're looking for is if people start moving their feet or varying off side to side, we don't want to see that. So this, you can kind of see that this shoulder squat becomes not only a great strength exercise, but a great stability exercise. So now you saw 2 ways to implement holding position. Now we're going to talk about changing up the body position. And a good example will be the deadlift. So you typically see that performed with a barbell, just a bilateral stance, and then you'll see people jump to a single leg deadlift. And that's not an incremental progression. That's a huge progression. So I want to show you how you can bring that back and properly progress body position. So I'm going to have Josh just start. I think he did a few already, just regular deadlifts. So how do we fix that? I'm going to have Josh go staggered now. So that his back toe is in alignment with his front heel. He's performing the deadlift the same way he would. He's pushing through the ball of the foot. So that is the first progression of a bilateral deadlift. Then we're going to take that and he's going to increase that step length. So he's going to continue to do that. He'll inch his way back. And how far, you're going to probably ask, is as far as he can and still maintain proper position. So that's a great way to start programming changes in body position. So we went from bilateral to staggered, and then he extended that staggered stance to almost a rear step deadlift. The third component we're going to talk about is dimension of a sandbag. Sandbags are not always unstable. Load and dimension will always play a role. So we have 2 ultimate sandbags filled to the same weight, but the larger one is always going to be more unstable. So I'm going to have Josh do a couple movements of just performing a clean so you can kind of see. So he's going to clean to fist, which requires even more accuracy of the movement. So he's grooving that pattern, performing that clean to fists. And the clean is almost an impossible movement to muscle up, so you have to be accurate with that movement. So now he's kind of grabbed the larger one, which is going to be much more difficult. You can kind of see a little unsteady as he brings it up to his fists. This requires much more accuracy. So he was cleaning the same weight in a smaller bag, and as he moved to a larger one, it became more challenging. So you can kind of see now how dimension is really going to play a role with sandbag training. So our fourth component we're going to talk about is plane of motion. In DVRT, we work on resisting other planes of motion before we change the dominant plane. So a great example we can view this in is lunging patterns. So Josh is going to perform a lunging pattern on shoulder lunge. So you're going to see that he's resisting frontal plane instability with this lunge. Next, he's going to take it and show us a rotational lunge. And the rotational lunge is referring to the rotation of the implement, not the body. So the implement itself is rotating around the body. And here you're going to start to see him resisting not only the frontal, but transverse planes. So this gives you a great example of how you can start programming plane of motion into your workouts also. So to recap those 4 important variables in DVRT: body position, holding position, stability or dimension of the implement itself, and plane of motion. I wanted you to start to see how you can incrementally progress sandbag training, because with sandbag training, you're not going to incrementally change the load of the sandbag. So you need to start seeing the other variables and how to progress those appropriately. In part 2, we will go more in depth with DVRT and how to make you more successful with your training.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below. If you have any questions about introduction and principles of sandbag training, or in general, please leave a comment and we will do our absolute best to answer you. And if you want any more information about PTontheNET or Jessica Pinto, click on the links in the description. Subscribe to our channel. We upload a video every week.